become somewhat of a cliché to point out that these are strange times for journalism. With this month's closure of the 30-year-old British newspaper The Independent and its sister The Independent on Sunday, the face of journalism is rapidly changing. In 2015, a Fortune article titled "Print Readership is Still Plummeting and Paywalls Aren't Really Helping" reported that readership of print newspapers has fallen by a staggering 25% in just the last 4 years. This is obviously very bad news for traditional print publications, but this is not due to a lack of interest. In fact, looked at another way, this is very good news. While the print readership has fallen dramatically, the piece continues, media consumption as a whole continues to expand, driven primarily by the internet and new forms of digital consumption. A report from Quartz, "We now spend more than 8 hours a day consuming media," confirms the trend. Average daily internet media consumption has doubled over the past 5 years, taking share from traditional formats. The internet accounted for 13% of average daily media use in 2010, but is set to reach nearly 30% in 2017. So it will come as no surprise that those trying to survive the decline in print media are largely turning their attention to digital strategy, with varying success. So who's making a success of digital, and how are they doing it? Those who took the plunge early seem to be reaping the most benefits from the digital revolution. Vice, which began as a Montreal-based magazine, ventured online in the mid-90s. But, as the Guardian article "Advice from Vice, 6 Lessons from a Publishing Outsider" notes, this is more than a simple print-to-digital transition tale. Vice puts out records, publishes books, makes TV programmes and produces films. In other words, it goes where its audience goes. Vice journalism is most well known for its spiky, gonzo-style pieces, with such titles as "Horrible News, Dying of Heartbreak is Fucking Real," and "We Ask Normal People if they would avoid tax if they were loaded." Overwhelmingly no, by the way. But this kind of light coverage isn't all they do. Much of their coverage of serious issues is also done in a conversational, tongue-in-cheek style. Take the UK's latest budget, which they covered with a piece called "You're £19,000 poorer today because you can't be bothered to read about pension reform." Despite the catchy headlines, much of their video content is serious, sober and very impressive. Here, their international scope is also clear. Take the video "On the Front Lines with International Volunteers Fighting ISIS in Syria," introduced by someone from Vice's Brooklyn office before cutting to an English subtitled German language report from Rojava. The half-hour-long report follows international volunteers fighting alongside Kurdish fighters in Syria.
Doch am Boden sollen internationale Zivilisten bereits seit Monaten gegen den IS kämpfen, darunter auch Deutsche. Ich bin nach Syrien gereist, um herauszufinden, wer die Menschen sind, die ihr sicheres Leben in Europa aufgeben, um gegen eine der mächtigsten Terrororganisationen der Welt zu kämpfen.
Another, covering a huge nationalist demonstration in Poland called Rise of the Right, follows the Vice reporter as he spends time with nationalist youths in Poland.
We're in Warsaw to attend the largest nationalist march in Europe. For the past 5 years, tens of thousands of people take to the streets once a year under the banner of patriotism.
Vice seems to be making a balance with its content, pulling in numbers to the site with the clickbait titles and breezy reporting, but maintaining some semblance of journalistic integrity with serious international reports. Another site attempting to strike a balance between trivial clickbait and journalism, although arguably with less success, is the giant of the digital sphere, BuzzFeed. It has infuriatingly compelling quizzes such as "Which actor do you actually belong with?" and "What percentage middle class are you?" and listicles such as 15 things literally everyone will be able to relate to this year and 11 ways we thought the future would be cooler. The listicle has become such a staple of digital journalism that The Guardian ran its own meta-listicle, 5 ways the listicle is changing journalism. But BuzzFeed has a surprisingly serious side too. As part of its series around Black History Month, it published a piece called "The Weight of James Arthur Baldwin," an extract from Rachel Ganzer's forthcoming book, which traces her exploration of Baldwin's life. It reports on topics such as Libya, for example in this piece, Broken Land. It has covered stories about hospitals in Syria operating underground and US immigration, such as in this article, "How to Get Your Green Card in America." Both of these outlets are undeniably successful. Fortune reported late last year that Vice Media is getting its own TV channel, thanks to Disney, and is now worth some $2.6 billion. BuzzFeed was recently valued at $850 million, according to the media briefing, dwarfing even that of Vox Media, whose reach of 150 million unique views a month is very similar to BuzzFeed's. But the gonzo and video-heavy style of Vice and BuzzFeed aren't the only way to make a success of a digital turn. More traditional media giants have also made the leap online. In late 2015, the New York Times published a piece revealing its strategy to double digital revenue, taking it to $800 million in 2020 from $400 million in 2014, in part through a focus on increasing subscriptions and engagement with its most loyal readers. Last year, it hit 1 million digital subscribers, reporting $9 million profit despite a decline in print advertising. It seems to have managed to make this transition without significantly changing its content. Poynter reported that this was driven by cost reductions that are not expected to continue into 2016. Not so lucky with navigating the digital age while still turning over enough to stave off panic is The Guardian. The New Statesman reported that it lost more than £100 million last year and is looking to slash £54 million from its annual budget to make savings. It will come as no surprise that redundancies are expected in high numbers. This is despite a report in 2014 from The Guardian, which stated that it had overtaken the New York Times to become the world's second most popular English-language newspaper website. Given the Times' introduction of metered access and paywall, this should not be a huge surprise. The Guardian has a vehement commitment not to paywall any of its content. Guardian editor Katharine Viner explains their stance. A paywalled website is just print in another form, making collaboration with the audience much more difficult. You can't take advantage of the benefits of the open web if you're hidden away. They are instead attempting to monetize a membership that rewards members with free events and may even mean free content in the future. It remains to be seen if they can make a success of this strategy. So far, things are not looking good for them. So, there are the new age digital sites, the traditional news outlets making a successful shift to digital, and the news organisations, like The Guardian, who are committed to digital but struggling to make it work financially. But there's also a curious trend amongst one section of print, current affairs magazines, like The New Statesman, The Economist, The Spectator, and Private Eye, which have all enjoyed a spike in print sales. The Guardian reported that current affairs magazines are defying the death of print, stating that Prospect's print plus digital numbers rose 3.4%, The New Statesman rose 14%, and The Spectator 31%. Spectator editor Fraser Nelson claims print is growing at its fastest rate for 15 years. If you produce journalism that is not just better, but significantly better than what's free on the web, people will pay for it, Nelson wrote on his magazine's blog. Partly, the introduction of digital and print subscriptions in such magazines with already large bases of loyal readers seems to have meant that opening up to digital has simply boosted print subscription with new readers. But it's not clear that this will last. Digital content is often skimmed, and retaining readers on sites rather than having them bounce back out again after looking at one article is one of digital publishing's biggest problems. Current affairs print magazines demand a more immersive reading experience, and the longevity of a reliance on these kind of readers is unpredictable. So, how is the move to digital changing our media? Of course, the move towards clickbait titles and listicle format of content is obvious, but even with publications without such a breezy tone, it's not simply a matter of newspapers being run online in the same way as they were in print. Given the difference in web engagement and print engagement, drawing revenue presents its own challenges, and there are various consequences of this. The annoying banners and pop-up adverts, or those that start making noise without prompting. However, sites like the New York Times, The Atlantic, and The Guardian are also allowing advertisers to pay not just for adverts that appear alongside content, but for content itself. Most notoriously, The Atlantic runs sponsored content from the Church of Scientology. It published an explainer piece on The Atlantic's Scientology ad and aftermath, where it refers to an advertorial, which had to be taken down from the site after they were faced with countless complaints. The ramifications of having private companies sponsoring content are obvious. With advertorials, the distinction between journalism and PR is blurred. That's not to say that the digital impact on the changing face of the media is all bad news. The low startup cost of digital has opened up entry for new media enterprises which no longer need to fund a print edition and get enough copies into every shop in order to be successful. Media outside of the mainstream or those with a large geographical audience are examples of this. The pro-Palestinian electronic intifada relies on donations but reaches a disproportionately large number of people across the world. The biggest success story in terms of the lower barrier to entry has no doubt been Jacobin magazine. It began as an online-only publication, but its founder Bhaskar Sankara always intended to go into print. A recent Vox article, Inside Jacobin, How a Socialist Magazine is Winning the Left's War of Ideas, describes that Jacobin now boasts a print circulation of about 20,000. It's 5 years old this year, and Vox describes it as perhaps the most relevant and important publication of the American political left today. It makes the overwhelming share of its money the old-fashioned way, by selling subscriptions and print copies. That provides about $500,000 in revenue annually, enough to pay for printing costs and salaries, and have a bit left over for a rainy day. So, while the digital media revolution might be spelling bad news for the old liberal giants like The Guardian and The Independent, it seems to be giving a boost and access to a more global audience to independent and small left-wing publications. Are we seeing the democratizing of our media?